The jungle was silent after the battle. Only smoke rose between the tall black trees, and the ground was wet with blood. A human soldier, his armor broken and his face pale, dragged himself across the dirt. He had fought with all his strength against the alien beasts. But now he was alone, wounded, and close to death. His chest was torn open by a sharp claw. Blood poured out fast, and he knew he could not last long. His breathing became heavy, his vision blurred, and his hands shook as he tried to hold the wound. He thought of Earth, of the people waiting for him, and he whispered to himself that he did not want to die here. Far away under strange stars from the shadows of the jungle, someone watched. A figure moved slowly, carefully, like the wind between the leaves. It was not human. It was a woman from another world, her skin marked with glowing lines, her eyes shining like the moon. She had been following the battle from a distance, and when the soldier fell, she stepped forward. Her people hated humans, but something inside her heart pushed her closer. The soldier raised his weak arm, his voice shaking. "Stay away," he said. But he had no strength. The alien woman knelt beside him, her hand soft on his forehead, and she spoke in a language he barely understood. Her voice was calm, almost kind, and though her words were strange, he felt comfort in them. She looked at his wound, deep and deadly, and her eyes filled with fear. She had no tools, no medicine, nothing but herself. For a long moment she hesitated, her body trembling. Then she reached to her own head. With one sharp pull, she tore strands of her own long hair from her scalp. The pain made her gasp, but she did not stop. The soldier stared in shock, his mind unable to understand why she hurt herself for him. She found a cactus thorn from the jungle floor, its tip sharp and strong. With her hair as thread and the thorn as a needle, she began to stitch his wound. Each movement was slow and painful, her hands shaking. The soldier crying out in agony as the thorn pierced his skin, but she kept going, her face filled with determination, her own blood from her torn scalp mixing with his blood on the ground. The jungle around them seemed to watch in silence. The wind stopped, the animals hid. It was as if the whole world waited to see if he would live or die. The soldier bit his lip, his fists clenched, trying not to scream with every stitch, and the alien woman whispered words of strength, words he could not understand, but somehow gave him courage. Finally, she tied the last knot, her hair binding the wound closed. She leaned back, her chest rising and falling with exhaustion, her face pale from pain. The soldier's eyes closed for a moment, then slowly opened again. He touched his chest, feeling the strange thread pulling his skin together. Something inside the wound began to burn. Not like normal pain, but like fire alive inside him. He groaned, his body shaking, sweat running down his face. The alien woman held him, her arms around his shoulders, and she whispered, "Hold on, human, hold on." The burning spread from his wound to his veins, from his heart to his head. He gasped as if lightning moved through his blood. But still he lived, his heart beat stronger than before. The alien woman looked at him with wide eyes, for she knew something had started that could not be stopped. The soldier's vision blurred again, but this time he saw lights. Not from the jungle, not from the stars, but from inside himself. Blue and green sparks seemed to flow beneath his skin, moving like rivers of fire. He tried to speak, but his voice was weak. What did you do to me?" The alien woman turned her head away, her face heavy with secrets, her lips pressed tight as if afraid to answer. The jungle wind returned, whispering through the trees. The night grew darker, the shadows deeper, but the soldier felt something different. He was not the same man who had fallen bleeding minutes ago. Something inside him was alive, something that should not exist. And though he did not yet understand it, his life, his people, and even his whole species were about to change forever. The night passed slowly, and the soldier lay on the jungle floor, half awake, half lost in fever. His wound should have killed him, but the strange stitching of hair and thorns held his flesh together. Yet what grew inside him was far more dangerous than blood loss. It was fire, it was storm, it was something alive. Moving through every part of his body, he felt it in his bones, like they were cracking and rebuilding at the same time. He felt it in his skin, like tiny sparks crawling under the surface. When he tried to breathe, the air seemed too heavy, yet his lungs filled with more strength than before. Every breath was deeper, every heartbeat louder, echoing in his ears like the drums of war. The alien woman sat beside him, watching in silence, her face lit by the glow of the wound. Yes, it glowed now, faint blue and green light pulsing where his chest had been torn open. She placed her hand gently on the stitches, and the light spread into her palm. Her eyes widened, and she pulled her hand away as if burned. She whispered in her language, words the soldier could not understand. But her tone carried both fear and awe. The soldier groaned, his hand clutching the earth. "What's happening to me?" he asked, his voice weak. The woman only looked at him with sorrow, shaking her head slowly, as if she could not give the truth yet. Instead, she poured water from a carved stone flask to his lips, and he drank though. The taste was bitter, but the water did not calm him. Instead it felt like fuel, like oil poured onto fire, and his chest burned hotter. He tried to rise, but his legs trembled, and the world spun around him. The jungle trees seemed taller, their colors sharper, every sound louder than before. He could hear the heartbeat of a bird nesting above, the hiss of insects crawling under the soil, the whisper of the wind like voices speaking to him. It overwhelmed him. Every sense stretched too far, too sharp. He pressed his hands against his ears, but the sound stayed inside. He squeezed his eyes shut, but the light still flashed behind them. The woman caught his shoulders, her strength surprising for her slim form. "Calm," she whispered. "Breathe, human, breathe." Her voice anchored him for a moment, pulling him back from madness. He looked into her glowing eyes, and though she was alien, strange, and dangerous, he trusted her. She had given her own pain to save him, and now she was the only one keeping him steady. Hours passed, maybe more. Time lost meaning in that place. The soldier drifted between agony and clarity, his body changing piece by piece. At one moment, he felt weak like a dying man, and in the next he felt strong enough to break stone with his hands. When he looked at his skin, he saw thin green lines spreading out from the stitches, like roots. Under the flesh they pulsed with light, alive, growing, merging with his veins. Fear filled him. "I'm not human anymore," he whispered, his voice shaking. The alien woman closed her eyes, as if his words cut her deeper than the wound had. "You are still you," she said softly, but her voice trembled. "But you are becoming more than human. And that is the danger." The soldier leaned back against a tree, his chest rising and falling, sweat dripping down his face. Every time his heart beat, he felt energy burst through his limbs. He clenched his fists, and the ground beneath his fingers cracked, tiny roots curling up as if answering his call. He pulled his hand away in shock, staring at the living vines that retreated back into the soil. The woman's breath caught, and she whispered again in her tongue, almost like a prayer. The pain came again, sharper this time, like knives moving through every nerve. He fell to his knees, gasping, his vision flashing with images he did not understand. Stars exploding, worlds burning, rivers of light flowing through endless darkness. Voices not his own whispered inside his mind, voices both human and alien, calling him something he did not yet know. The alien woman knelt beside him, holding his head, keeping him from falling fully into madness. "You must endure," she said, her words urgent. "This is the price of survival." The soldier groaned. This will kill me." But she shook her head. "No, it will remake you." The fire in his chest eased for a moment. His breathing steadied, and he opened his eyes. For the first time, he saw her clearly, not as an enemy, not as a stranger, but as someone tied to his fate. Her torn hair fell across her shoulders, still damp with her own blood. and her glowing lines pulsed softly with each breath. She looked fragile, yet he knew she was stronger than she seemed. He wanted to ask why she had saved him, why she had broken her own body for him. But before he could, another wave of heat rose inside, and his body arched with pain. The night sky above them darkened, storm clouds gathering though no storm had been before. The jungle shivered as if the earth itself felt the change in him. And the soldier understood only one thing in that moment. Whatever had been done to him, whatever he was becoming, it was not just survival, it was transformation, and it would not stop. The alien woman whispered in a trembling voice, "What grows inside you will change everything." And with those words, the soldier realized his life was no longer his own. It belonged to something larger, something that might lift humanity higher than ever or destroy it completely. The night faded into a gray dawn, and the soldier sat against the roots of a giant tree. His body still burned, but now the fire inside him felt slower, controlled, as if it had learned to live with him. His skin carried glowing lines, faint but real, spreading outward from his stitched wound like rivers of light. Every movement reminded him that he was not the same man anymore. The alien woman stayed close, never far from him, her eyes always watching. She seemed both worried and curious, as if she waited for something. When he tried to speak, she lifted her hand gently to silence him, shaking her head. She had saved his life, but she carried secrets that pressed heavy on her shoulders. Finally, when the silence grew too heavy, the soldier asked, "What did you do to me?" His voice was calm, but beneath it lived fear. The woman lowered her gaze, her fingers brushing the ground, drawing strange patterns in the dirt. After a long pause, she whispered, "I broke the law of my people to save you." Her words carried weight, but he did not understand. "Law?" he asked, his brows tight with confusion. She nodded, her glowing lines pulsing brighter with every word. "My hair is not just hair," she said softly. "It is alive. Each strand carries the seed of my kind, a living thread that binds flesh and spirit." Her voice trembled, but she kept speaking. "It is forbidden to use it on outsiders, forbidden even to share it with my own, unless it is sacred ritual." The soldier stared at her, the truth sinking into his mind like a stone into deep water. You put your life into me," he said slowly. "You gave me more than healing." She looked away, her hands shaking. "I gave you my essence, human, and now it grows inside you." The weight of her words pressed hard on his chest. He thought of Earth, of his people, of his commanders, and he wondered what they would say if they knew. Would they call him cursed, or would they see him as something powerful, something dangerous? The thought twisted his stomach, but before he could answer, the woman continued. "My people believe our essence must never mix with another race," she said, her voice low, "for it changes them forever." Her eyes filled with sorrow. "If they find out what I have done, they will hunt me, and they will hunt you too." The soldier leaned forward, his fists pressing into the dirt. "Then why save me?" he asked, his voice sharp. The woman's eyes shone with sudden emotion, and for a moment she looked fragile. "Because I could not let you die," she whispered. "I saw something in you, something different from the others who fight and destroy. You were brave, and yet human." Her confession made the air heavy between them. The soldier felt anger, gratitude, and confusion all at once. Part of him wanted to curse her for turning him into something unnatural, but another part of him felt a strange connection to her, like their fates were tied together by invisible chains. He looked at his hands, at the faint glow running through his veins. "What happens now?" he asked, his voice trembling. The woman's silence was answer enough, but finally she said, "Now you must survive, and survive in silence, for if others discover what you carry, it will bring war." The soldier leaned back, his breath heavy. He thought of the battlefield, of his fellow soldiers dying, of the enemy's endless strength, and then he thought of the power now burning in his blood, the vines that answered him, the light that healed him. He was not sure if this was a curse, or a gift, but he knew it was only the beginning. The alien woman stood slowly, her eyes scanning the jungle. She seemed restless, as if danger pressed close around them. Her hand tightened around the thorn she had used before, the only weapon she carried. "We cannot stay here," she said firmly. "My people will search for me. They will feel what I have done. They will not forgive it." The soldier rose unsteadily to his feet, his body still weak but stronger than it should have been. His glowing lines pulsed with each heartbeat, and the jungle seemed to shift with his steps. He could not deny it anymore. Something inside him was alive, and it listened to him. The woman glanced at him, her face tense, and whispered, "You are now the bridge between two worlds, but bridges can be burned." The soldier clenched his fists, his jaw tight. He did not know where this path would lead, but he understood one thing clearly. The secret she carried was now his own. And it was heavy, heavy enough to change not only his fate, but the fate of humanity itself. The jungle grew quiet as the soldier and the alien woman moved through the shadows. Every step he took felt different now, his body stronger, his senses sharper, yet also filled with strange weight. The glowing lines under his skin pulsed with a soft light, like roots stretching deeper into him with each breath. He could not escape the feeling that he was no longer walking as only a man, but as something new. The alien woman walked ahead, guiding him through twisted trees and thick vines. She moved gracefully, her feet silent, her glowing marks blending with the night. The soldier tried to match her pace, but soon he realized he was no longer struggling. His wound should have left him weak, broken and bleeding, but instead he felt stronger. His legs carried him with steady power, his lungs filled with air as if they had never known pain. As the sun began to rise, the soldier stopped. He placed his hand on a tree trunk to rest, and something unexpected happened. The bark beneath his palm shifted, green light spreading from his skin into the wood. Roots beneath the ground shivered and curled upward, small vines twisting around his arm like living snakes. He pulled his hand back in shock, his heart racing. What is this?" he whispered. The woman turned sharply, her eyes wide as she saw the vines. "They are answering you," she said softly. "The world listens to the essence in your blood." The soldier stared at his hand, trembling. "This isn't me. I'm not supposed to be like this." The woman stepped closer, her face serious. "You are more than you were. Human, but this gift is dangerous, even for you." His breath grew fast, his chest tight. "Dangerous," he repeated. "It feels like it's burning me alive." And then it came again, the fire, the storm inside him. He fell to his knees, his hands pressing into the dirt, and the ground shook. Thin cracks spread outward, and from them, tiny green shoots burst free, growing faster than natural plants should. The vines wrapped around his arms, not to harm him, but to hold him steady, as if the jungle itself refused to let him fall. The alien woman knelt beside him, her hand on his shoulder, her voice urgent. "You must control it," she said. "If you let it run wild, it will consume you." The soldier clenched his teeth, his fists digging into the soil. "I don't know how," he growled. His body shook violently, light surging through his veins, his eyes glowing with an unnatural green hue. Every heartbeat felt like thunder, every breath like fire. The woman leaned close, whispering words in her own language, words that calmed like a soft wind. Slowly, the storm inside him eased, the vines loosened their grip, and the glowing faded. The soldier collapsed against the ground, his chest rising and falling heavily. He closed his eyes, sweat dripping down his face. "I'm losing myself," he whispered. The woman shook her head firmly. "No, you are finding what you are becoming." When he opened his eyes again, he saw the jungle differently. The colors seemed alive, the trees breathing slowly, the plants whispering with energy. He could feel them, not just see them. As if the forest was part of him, the soldier lifted his hand slowly, and a small flower grew from the soil where his fingers pointed. It bloomed in seconds, its petals glowing faintly with the same light in his veins. The sight stole his breath. Both beautiful and terrifying, he stepped back, shaking. His head, this isn't human. The alien woman's voice softened. No, it is not, but it is now you. For a long moment, the soldier stood silently, staring at the flower he had created. It swayed gently in the morning breeze, fragile yet powerful. A symbol of what he was becoming. He thought of Earth, of his fellow soldiers, of the war waiting beyond the jungle. What would they say if they saw him like this? What would they do if they discovered the truth? Would they fear him? Would they use him? Or would they destroy him? The woman broke his thoughts with a warning. Others will come soon, she said, her eyes scanning the trees. They will feel the shift in the world, and they will hunt us. The soldier clenched his fists, his heart pounding, the vines near his feet curling as if ready for battle. He no longer felt like a dying man. He felt like a weapon, alive with power, yet he also feared that the power inside him might one day turn against him as the first rays of sunlight cut through the jungle. The soldier realized one truth. This was not just survival anymore. This was transformation, and with every heartbeat, he stepped further away from the man he once was, becoming something new, something the galaxy was not ready to face. The soldier and the alien woman moved deeper into the jungle, but the silence of the forest felt wrong. Birds no longer sang. The insects no longer buzzed. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The soldier could feel it through the strange energy in his blood. Something was searching, something drawing closer. The woman's face turned pale as her glowing marks dimmed. "They are near," she whispered. "The hunters have come." The soldier tightened his fists, his body filled with restless power. "Hunters?" he asked, his voice sharp. "Who are they?" The woman's eyes met his, fear burning in their glow. "Enforcers of my kind, guardians of the old law. They must destroy anything that breaks the boundary between species, and now they come for me. And for you." Her words sent a chill through his bones, but at the same time, his heart pounded with a dangerous fire. He had been hunted before by beasts, by enemies in battle, but this was different. These were beings who would not stop, who would chase until death, and now, because of what grew inside him, they had reason to fear him, reason to kill him. The sound came first, distant cracks of branches, heavy steps moving in rhythm. The soldier closed his eyes, and his new senses stretched outward like ripples in water. He could feel them, 3 shapes moving through the trees, their energy sharp and cold. Every heartbeat they took echoed in his blood, like drums of war approaching. The woman grabbed his arm, pulling him toward a wall of vines. "Hide," she urged. "You cannot face them yet. You are not ready." But the soldier pulled free, his glowing lines pulsing brighter. "I've been hunted before," he growled. "This time I won't run." The hunters stepped into view. Tall figures clad in dark armor, etched with glowing patterns. Their eyes burned like fire under shadowed helms, and in their hands they carried long weapons shaped from living bone. They moved with perfect silence, their steps heavy yet graceful. Like predators who had never failed, when their gaze fell on the soldier, their armor shifted. Pulsing with recognition, one hunter raised his weapon, pointing it at the woman. "You broke the sacred law," he said, his voice deep and heavy. "You gave your essence to an outsider." The woman stood firm, though her hands trembled. "I saved a life," she said, her voice steady. "That is no crime." The hunter's reply was cold. "It is the greatest crime of all, and for it, you both will end." Before the soldier could move, one of the hunters charged, his weapon swung like lightning, but the soldier's body reacted faster than thought. He caught the blade with his bare hand, vines bursting from the ground to wrap around the weapon. The hunter's eyes widened as the living plants tightened, cracking the weapon's surface. With a roar, the soldier pushed forward, throwing the armored figure back into a tree with impossible strength. The woman gasped, her eyes wide at what she had just seen. The soldier looked at his hands, blood mixing with glowing light. He should have been afraid, but instead, A strange thrill moved through him. The power inside him was no longer hiding. It wanted to fight. The other hunters circled, their armor humming with energy. One raised his hand, and spikes of bone shot through the air, sharp as spears. The soldier raised his arms, and vines burst upward, weaving into a shield that deflected the strike. The impact shook the ground, but the vines held, their roots feeding on the energy. Growing stronger, the soldier's eyes glowed brighter. His breath heavy with rage, the third hunter lunged low, his blade slicing toward the soldier's legs. But the ground itself shifted, roots snapping upward to trap his feet. The hunter stumbled, and the soldier struck with a fist glowing with green light. The blow sent the armored figure crashing into the dirt, the earth cracking beneath him. The battle was short, but fierce, and soon all three hunters lay broken or bound by the jungle's vines. The soldier stood above them, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths, his glowing lines burning like fire. He had never felt so alive, never felt so strong. Yet the sight of his own power left him shaken. The hunters were not weak, yet he had defeated them. Not as a man, but as something beyond man. The woman stepped closer, her face torn between fear and awe. "You should not be able to do this," she whispered. "No human should command the living world like this." The soldier looked at her, his voice low. "But I can." She turned her gaze away, whispering almost to herself, "And that means the change has already begun." Bound hunters glared up at him, their voices filled with hate. "You are a curse," one hissed. "You will bring war between worlds." The soldier felt their words strike deep into him. A curse or a gift, he did not know yet, but he could feel the weight of destiny pressing against his soul. As the vines tightened around the hunters, the woman looked to the soldier, her eyes filled with warning. "This was only the first," she said. "More will come, stronger, faster, and they will not stop until you are gone." The soldier clenched his fists, the glow of his veins casting light across the shadows. "Then let them come," he said, his voice steady, "because I will not fall again." The jungle was still after the battle, but the silence felt heavy. The hunters lay trapped in thick vines, their armor cracked, their weapons broken, yet their eyes still burned with hate. The soldier stood over them, his glowing lines pulsing like fire beneath his skin, his chest rising and falling as if the whole forest breathed with him. The alien woman looked at him with both awe and fear, and he knew she was holding back something. He turned to her, his voice low. "You need to tell me the truth now." Her lips pressed tight, but his gaze held her. And finally she nodded slowly. "You think I healed you," she said, her voice trembling. "But I did more than that. I changed you." The soldier frowned, his fists clenched. "Changed me how?" She stepped closer, her glowing lines bright against the shadows. "When I used my hair, I did not only close your wound. I gave you my essence. It is alive. It has joined with your blood." Her words struck like a blade. The soldier's mind raced, his heart pounding faster. "So I'm not human anymore." The woman shook her head. "You are still human, but not only human. You are something new, a fusion of my kind and yours." Her eyes softened with sorrow. "You are the first bridge between our worlds, and bridges can change everything." The soldier took a step back, his hands shaking as he stared at the glowing lines under his skin. He remembered the vines that answered him, the strength in his fists, the whispers of the forest that only he could hear. None of it belonged to him before. None of it belonged to mankind. And yet it lived inside him now, as if it had always been waiting. "Why?" he asked, his voice breaking. "Why would you do this?" The woman lowered her head. "Because I could not let you die, but also because I saw something in you, something no human soldier has shown before. Mercy, courage, a spirit unbroken by fear. And I believed my essence would not destroy you, but complete you." The soldier's thoughts swirled, anger and gratitude fighting inside him. "You broke the law of your people," he said. "You risked your life, your place among them, just to save me." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I did, and now both of us will carry the cost." The bound hunters hissed from the ground, their voices sharp. "He is an abomination," one growled. "A weapon that will bring war between worlds," another spat. "You have doomed both. Your kind and his, nothing good will come from this union." The soldier's jaw tightened. Their words echoing in his chest. Was he truly a weapon? Or was he a chance for something greater? He looked at his glowing hands. The vines still curled around his feet, and he could not escape the truth. He was no longer just a man, and he would never be only human again. The woman touched his arm gently, her voice quiet but firm. "You are not a curse," she said. "You are possibility. You are proof that two worlds can share life instead of death." Her words warmed him for a moment, but the fear remained. "What if I lose myself?" he whispered. "What if this thing inside me takes control?" She shook her head, her eyes steady. "Then I will stand with you, even if it means falling with you." The soldier closed his eyes, his breath heavy. For the first time since his wound, he understood the weight of what he carried. This was no simple survival. This was evolution. Forced and unnatural, yet unstoppable. And if humanity discovered what lived inside him, everything would change forever. He looked at the captured hunters, their eyes filled with burning hate. "You fear me," he said quietly, his voice deep. "Not because I am weak, but because you know what this means. You know humanity will never be the same if this spreads." One hunter spat, his voice like venom. "It will spread, and when it does, the galaxy will drown in war." The soldier turned to the woman, his voice shaking with both fear and determination. "Is this true? If others are touched by your essence, will they change like me?" She hesitated, then nodded, her eyes heavy. "Yes, and if humanity learns this power, they will rise higher than any species. But they will also become the greatest threat the galaxy has ever known." The soldier felt the weight of her words crush against him. To share this gift meant giving humanity the strength to never bow again. But it also meant inviting the fear and wrath of every other world. His hand pressed against his chest, feeling the steady glow of his wound. He knew then that his choice would not just shape his own life, it would shape the future of his people. Asterisk. The woman whispered, almost like a prayer. "Whatever you decide, the galaxy will remember you." Not as a soldier, but as the first of something new. The soldier stood tall, his glowing lines bright as dawn broke through the jungle. For the first time, he no longer feared the change inside him. For the first time, he accepted the truth. He was the beginning of humanity's next chapter, and the galaxy was not ready. Asterisk. The jungle was alive with tension, the air heavy with the breath of unseen eyes. The soldier stood with his glowing veins shining under the morning light, the alien woman beside him, and the captured hunters at his feet. Every choice he made now felt heavier than any battle he had ever fought. Because this was no longer about survival. This was about the fate of his people, the fate of humanity itself. The hunters hissed through broken armor, their voices filled with venom. "You cannot keep this secret," one growled. "Soon others will come. They will tear the truth from your bones, and they will burn your world before it rises." The soldier's hands tightened into fists, the vines at his feet curling like angry serpents. He wanted to silence them, to end their threat. But deep inside he knew their words carried danger, not lies. The alien woman placed her hand on his arm, her voice low. "Do not let rage decide for you," she whispered. "Rage will make you their weapon, but choice will make you free." Her words cut through the storm in his chest, reminding him of the truth. He was not just stronger now, he was different, and difference demanded responsibility. The soldier lifted his gaze to the horizon, imagining Earth far beyond the stars. He thought of the faces of men and women who fought beside him, of children who would grow under skies still threatened by alien power. He thought of how fragile humanity seemed in this galaxy of giants. And then he thought of what burned inside him, a fire that could never be caged. If his people had it, they would never bow again, never kneel, never fear. But he also thought of the warning, the woman's voice echoing in his mind. If humanity takes this gift, the galaxy will rise against them. War will come like a storm that never ends. The soldier stood frozen, torn between two paths, each heavy with destiny. At last he spoke, his voice steady but heavy with weight. I will not hide this, he said, his eyes burning bright. Humanity deserves to know. Humanity deserves to rise. The woman closed her eyes, her shoulders sinking as if she had carried that answer inside her heart already. She opened them again and nodded. Then you choose to carry the fire into your people, and nothing will ever be the same. The bound hunters roared in anger, their voices shaking the trees. Then war will come, and your species will be hunted until the stars themselves fall. The soldier looked down at them, his voice like steel. Then let the galaxy come. They will see that humanity is not prey, not weak, but something greater. He turned to the woman, his gaze sharp. Will you help me? She hesitated, only for a moment before nodding. I have already chosen your path when I gave you my essence. My fate is bound to yours now. Together they cut through the vines, leaving the hunters trapped but alive. The jungle swallowed their cries as the soldier and the woman walked onward, step by step toward a future neither fully understood. As they moved, the soldier felt the power inside him grow steadier, less like fire and more like a heartbeat that belonged to the world itself. He touched a tree, and it bloomed with flowers in seconds. He pressed his hand to the ground, and roots spread in all directions like veins of light. The woman watched silently, her expression unreadable, but her eyes glimmered with something that looked like hope. When the soldier looked to the sky, he no longer saw it as unreachable. He imagined returning to Earth, standing before his people, showing them what he had become. He imagined soldiers no longer bleeding on battlefields, but healing, stronger than before. He imagined children, born with light in their veins. Humanity stepping into a future no enemy could break. But deep in his chest, under the fire and the strength, there was also a shadow. He could not escape the truth that power brought fear, and fear brought war. If he gave this gift to his people, they would rise, but others would fall, and the galaxy would burn before it bowed. Still, he did not look back. The choice was made, the path was set, and he would carry it with his own blood. The woman walked beside him, silent but strong, and he knew she would not leave. Together they stepped into the unknown, carrying a secret that would no longer stay hidden. The forest whispered as they passed, the vines curling and the trees bending as if the world itself recognized its new master. The hunter's cries faded behind them, but their warning would never fade from his mind. The soldier's eyes burned with light as he whispered to himself, "This is not the end of humanity, this is the beginning." And far away, beyond the jungle, beyond the stars, the galaxy stirred with unease, because a single soldier had been remade, and what grew inside him would soon grow inside a species that had always been underestimated. The galaxy whispered with fear. Humans are no longer prey. Humans are becoming the future.